Hey, hey, you guys is
Hello.
yeah.
How is
Okay.
everybody? As cold as I am here?
Yeah. Are you like in a little, are you like in an outhouse done up or what, Claire?
Yeah, we've got a an office in the garden. Um, so the temperature is now up to 17 degrees with my little heater next to me. It was about 13 when I came out at 9 o'clock. So
That is what they call a workable temperature, but
I mean, in theory,
who were they measured it on?
yeah. Here we go.
It can't be just us today, can it?
And it was a
Not many.
slightly quieter group.
Yeah.
So we have a special guest host today. Gabriel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, wonderful. Well, good to see you all. It's amazing to connect with you guys. And you guys are complaining it's cold. For us here, we don't understand that. Where I am, I do not understand what you're talking about. And maybe some of you can just come over and then you'll realize that. So, anyway, so Gabriel Achai is my name, connecting from Nairobi, Kenya. I don't know if any of you have been to this part of the world. Yes. Any, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for an invitation? I can send it right away. Even as we go on, I can just put a little email and say, hey, you're invited. It's up to you to accept it or not. Anyway, but yeah,
Maybe
but
we could maybe we could do one of our sessions in person
oh
with
yeah,
you.
that'll be fun. And we'd go to the coast, Mombasa. Most people like to go to the coastal region. It's fun to go out there, and you will not cry of the cold you're crying now. So anyway, so good to see you all. Happy to be here. I'm part of Giant. Been part of Giant worldwide since 2018. Actually, 2017. Sorry, 2017. And I'm trying to do some bit of that in this part of the world in Africa. And glad to connect with you. And I have my colleague we work with. She's called. If anybody can mention that name you're seeing on the screen, I'll probably I'll give you an award if you can mention it without butchering it. Who wanna try? Who is up for the challenge? Just read it and say it until she's happy that you've said her name correctly.
Sarah, I thought you were going to go for that then. You leant forward with full confidence.
I'm
Like,
trying
yeah,
to
she's got.
mouth it in my head and mouth without looking stupid, It's like, Alex, do you
Yeah.
have no idea how to pronounce that?
No, but I mean, I'm willing to be the sacrifice here and try and say Kengaya, but I mean, that's probably not it.
You got it. You got it, man. You should come to Nairobi. I'll host you.
Sorry.
You should
Yeah.
come to Nairobi. I'll host you.
Oh, yeah.
Kenya, you want to say something? You got it. Very good.
The first try. Not even Kenyans get it the first time. But my name is Kingaya. I work with Gabriel, and I'm really, really excited to have this opportunity to just connect with you and also learn. Yeah. Looking forward to learning. Yeah. What's your Gabriel?
Good. Well, thank you, guys. Claire, is that it? Or we proceed on? Okay, good.
Yep,
I
you're good
see
to go.
someone is still joining. Well, good. Such a joy to connect with you guys. I was just remembering when was I last in London? And this was in 2009. And I bought these t-shirts that read, I brought them all to my siblings. My brother was in London and they only got me was this lousy t-shirt. Do they still sell those things? Yes, but it was fun it was December 2009, and I had some good time just going around London Eye, the London Dungeon, and going to some cool places. And so it's a joy to connect with you guys virtually. And so I know you guys met about 2 weeks ago. So just a little celebration. What are you celebrating from the last time when you met? Any celebrations? Yeah, any celebrations? Even just celebrating to have met a Kenyan today is fine.
I think that's a group celebration, isn't it?
That's a group celebration. Maybe someone might, like Alex already has a room when he comes to Nairobi. He has
Yeah,
a place to
I'm
stay.
celebrating a future trip to Kenya.
Okay, yeah. Anybody, any celebration before we can move on here? I see someone has joined with Bible Society. I don't know whether that's his name or he has a name.
Sorry, my name's Carl. I didn't rename myself. I was frantically running to find a room. My apologies for being a couple of minutes late.
That's fine. That's fine. Anybody celebrating anything before we move on?
The prospect of snow later in the week. There we go.
Nice, nice. I thought the cold is covering you too much until you have nothing to celebrate. Sorry about that, guys. There's nothing we can do to help you. I wish there's a way we could do to bring you some heat that we have in Nairobi. But yeah, but maybe we can just move on today. I'm really thrilled and excited to just be with you guys all today and just spend some time with you guys. I hope you can see my screen. And just to get us started, there's this Bible verse. Some of us, okay, I'm trying to get my screen to move here. And first, oh, there you go. I was wondering what's going on. So there's this Bible verse, and probably familiar with this Bible verse. And I like it, and I anchor a lot of what I do on this Bible verse. And when I interacted with giant tools, one of the things that I really connected quickly with one of the tools was this Bible verse, which talks about do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. The world has a pattern, and it's very easy to conform to that pattern. It's very easy to just be able to go with the flow, to do this is how they do it, this is how it happens. But we are being called upon to be transformed. And of course, we've been given how this should happen, that this should be a renewing of our mind. For me, this is very important for me, even as I grow, as I lead, as I grow the things that I'm involved in my family, as I interact with my little ones, is what does renewing my mind look like? Because then there's something that follows to that, so that I'll be able to test. Meaning, I cannot test and approve God's will if my mind, if I'm conforming with what is happening around me, I can't really be able to really be in this realm or this space where I can even understand what the will of God is for my life. And of course, it finishes by saying that it's good, pleasing, and perfect will of God for my life. So this is a good encouragement for me. And I don't know about you, but it's a good encouragement for me, even as I'm thinking about this. But it's the work is on my side that I do not conform to the patterns of this world, but I'll be transformed by the renewing of my mind. And so sometimes when I do this, I like to open it up. Any thoughts? Anybody wanna just what does this mean to you? Even this verse, when you reflect on it, what does it mean to you? What is coming at you as you read it? How does it ring to you, this verse? Anybody wanna just go and just share their thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think it's always such a nice reminder that it's so easy to fall into certain ways of thinking, certain patterns, and you just get used to that rhythm and routine, and you forget that actually there are completely different and better ways of thinking, and that the minute you kind of sit down with God, you sit down with the Bible, you sit down with the Holy Spirit, that suddenly all those better ways of thinking are there, they're available. And so I always find it really encouraging.
Thank you, Alex. Anybody else maybe want to just
Yeah,
share
for
thoughts?
me, it's about standing out a little bit, putting myself out there a little bit, and not doing what everybody else is doing and agreeing to what everyone else is agreeing to. I'm part of the family of God, and I need to be different. And that's how I see it. And I'm happy to be different, but sometimes it can get scary to be different because I have to put myself out there in a nice way.
I like that. It can be scary to be different. And some of us, depending on our voice order, our personalities, we want to belong, we want to fit in. We don't want to stick out and be seen as different. We want just to blend in. And as a nurturer, I'm a nurturer. And sometimes I have to remind myself, Gabriel, you don't have to be agreeable to everybody. You have to sometimes say some things that makes you stand out. You want to, because sometimes we want to just let the harmony be because you don't want to trouble the water as a nurturer. Maybe all the nurturers here might relate to that. So this really speaks clearly to this tool today that we have today. And sometimes people ask, hey, Gabriel, why haven't you done this so far? And I don't have a good reason, really. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like, I don't have a good reason why I've not done it, other than all the voices in my head that speak to me, that tell me how I am not good enough. That's all the reason why I've not done it. And I'm like, so I was going through some session yesterday and they talking about dreams. And someone told me, Gabriel, dreams are free. And some of us, because of the dream busters that we have all these limiting beliefs that tell us, oh, you're not good enough. You can't do that. Who are you to think that you can show up in front of people and speak like that? That's not meant for people like you. There are other people. You need permission. And in African context, I was telling someone the other day that in African context, most of us kind of operate as if we need permission from someone to do something. And I don't know about your culture, I don't know about your context. And so you find a lot of young upcoming leaders or people really, they always are waiting for this permission from someone who is probably in authority somewhere, yet they really don't need this permission, but they operate from the mindset that I need someone to give me permission. And so that sometimes becomes an inhibition because it's more internal. Nobody has stopped you, but you're limiting yourself because of the things you're telling yourself. And this could be coming from what someone told you when you're growing up, when you're young, or some of the things that you've come to believe about some things about you. Now, there are those other external factors. Maybe if I'm driving in Nairobi, in our expressway here, if you come to Nairobi, you get the expressway here, and you'll find the speed limits. And so those speed limits, it's an external reinforced restriction. So I can't drive the way I want because there's that external thing that stops me from just doing whatever I want the way I want to do it. And so it's important to ask myself, whenever I tell myself I can't do something, is it internally, me telling myself internally in my head, or is it coming from an external factor, something that is probably a prohibition, a government policy, an organizational policy, or the way things work? But sometimes I need to interrogate. And so even when you look at the verse today and trying to tie it into this, what is it that is making you conform? Are you conforming because of your internal inhibitions? Or are you conforming because of the prohibitions? And it's important to ask yourself, when I am choosing to go with the flow, is it because of what I'm telling myself, or is it because of the policies or the restrictions that are outside of me? And that is important even when you're thinking of some of the resistance that you might face. For any change to happen, there's always a resistance. And the resistance could come from you internally. The resistance could come from any other places. But when you're talking of resistance, there's three things: barriers, hurdles, and gaps. And it's important to ask yourself, because if you can't name it, then you wouldn't know what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with barriers? These are things you can't change. These are policies you have no control over. I can't all of a sudden wake up and say, since I want to drive at 200 kilometers per hour, I'm going to change that speed. I can't change that speed. It's a government policy. It's a law. It's a traffic rule that I have to go by. I can't wake up and say, I'm going to change it because I want to move the way I want to move. During COVID, they restricted movement. And my grandmother died around that time. And I realized I could not go to the burial of my grandmother during that time And I had to, because I had a 2-week-old baby in the house also, so I didn't want to expose the baby into a lot. And so for that reason, I could not just move easily. Now, hurdles are the things that we can overcome. So what are the hurdles when you're dealing with this thing? You say, why? Who says I can't? Is it because of the hurdles I'm facing? And what are these hurdles about? These are things that I can overcome. And if I'm just creative around them, I can work around them. I can figure out stuff. I can sit down and go through something and say, I can innovate around those hurdles. And then there are gaps. These are things I need to fill. Do I need to talk to someone about resources? Do I need to go for an academic qualification? What exactly do I need to do before I move on in whatever it is, or whatever resistance I'm facing? And so I don't know what all this communicates to you, even as you're talking about not conforming to the patterns and trying to renew your mind. What are some of these things that you need to interrogate and face? I'll probably open it up for questions. If anybody maybe have questions or any thoughts, and then we'll go into breakout rooms. And when we go into the breakout rooms, the question I want you to ask yourself is, when I'm thinking of not conforming, what am I dealing with, so that I'm not conforming as I'd wish not to conform? Any questions before Laura sends us into the breakout rooms to just try talk to each other and maybe respond? As I'm thinking of, I need to renew my mind so that I can embrace this will of God for me, the perfect, pleasing, good will of God. What are some of the resistance that I'm facing? What is it that is it inhibition, prohibition, and how is all this fitting in for me? Questions before we break out for that? Okay, Laura, maybe you can send guys for breakout for you can set the time. Yeah. Okay, good. But were the breakout rooms any warmer? The breakout rooms, were they any warmer? You can make them warmer by just stimulating conversations that maybe were going on in there. Uh, I wonder if the others had a detour to some other places. Claire, did the others detour to some other
It
places?
might have done. We did lose James temporarily yesterday in a breakout room, but hopefully.
Okay. Okay. Well, as we okay, good. I see. Okay, great. People coming back in. Well, good. So I'd love to hear from you guys, if possible, all. Just brief comments. How was that? What stood out? What are the questions that came up? What are the thoughts? Yeah. So anybody want to go first?
I think, I mean, I think the thing is with this sort of thing, it's quite difficult to like articulate, what sort of barriers there are if you're not kind of actively coming up against. So Leanne and I just try to kind of think about situations we've sort of been in. And I think in particular for me and my team, it's just, I suppose it's a barrier, but it's sort of accepting why you can't move forward with certain pieces of work or projects if you're dependent on other people finishing things, before you can finish that. And it's just kind of, I suppose the barrier is other people, right? In that sort of context, and it's just kind of learning to accept. Oh, okay, this is how it is. We've all worked towards the same deadline. There doesn't appear to be any consequences for other people not fulfilling that. So you just need to kind of accept and kind of just move on with it rather than sort of dwell. And, I do tend to dwell on things a bit too much, I would say, and it has a negative impact. So I think it's just probably just accepting, some things are out of our control. There's nothing we could do about that. So there you are.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Carl. Yes, accepting that and not sweating too much over it, because it can easily just drain you and make you not even to focus on something you can actually do. Because
Yeah.
it's good. Anybody else? Yes, go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to try and mention your name, but just go ahead.
Karen. It's Karen. It's got my surname on there. It's not very helpful. I do apologise. I was saying I don't like to sort of see things as certain barriers. I like to sort of see, turn it into hurdles and sort of, see a way around, why certain things can't be done. Yeah, I like to sort of problem solve it and sort of, what can we do different? Turn it into an hurdle.
Yeah, and I like that thinking, because there are some of those barriers that maybe talking to someone else might change the conversation. Like,
Yes.
for example, in my example that I told you about my grandmother dying, I knew I could talk to the authorities, and I'd get permission to move. I'd get permission to go past the barriers, the blockades that they had around towns. I could get, but if I talked to someone and I got in, so some of those, is there someone I can talk to who can tweak a few things? And then I can be able, it can no longer now be a barrier. It probably becomes now a hurdle.
Yes.
Yeah, so I like that. I like that. Good. Any thoughts, comments, questions?
Well, just to carry on from that, because I was in the room with her, is that idea that we're not alone in all of this, and actually, if we have really good support, then a lot of those barriers can become hurdles, because quite literally the people can lift you over it. It's a high wall, but if you got people around you who are lifting you up, it can just become a hurdle. And so we're not alone in all of this.
Yeah, sure. Very true. Very true. Thank you, Lex. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just sort of reflecting on sort of some examples myself, but mainly sort of identifying hurdles as opposed to sort of strong, hard barriers. But yeah, just as well acknowledging like sometimes hurdles can sort of feel a bit painful almost, or like time consuming and a bit frustrating, but also often. So most of my ones that I identified were processes. So sometimes I'm like, oh, they feel a bit sort of time consuming, and I just sort of like to crack on with the actual project than like kind of, several admin steps, but also acknowledging that they are important and like they have their place. They're probably there to protect you in the long run and, give you a template of going through things, and may well have even sort of developed from things going a bit wrong in the past. So yeah, just kind of that balance of like acknowledging sometimes can be a bit frustrating, but also knowing that they've got their place too.
I like that. And of course, just knowing what exactly you're dealing with. I always say if you can't name it, you can't manage it. And so if you can, okay, so this is what I'm dealing with, and what does it mean? And how do I manage? How do I navigate this? So thank you. Thank you, Kate. Anybody else want to share before we kind of progress this a little bit and see how we can then be able to learn and grow on some of these conversations?
Hi. I think sometimes it can be a bit difficult at Bible Society because we're quite a big organisation. We're very process driven, and sometimes you have to get through quite a lot of red tape to get anything done, which can be quite difficult so like I work in the fundraising team, like we have a very big target that we need to reach by the end of the year, and we can't, at the end of the year, our team can't say, oh, sorry, we couldn't get something done because we couldn't do this other thing that's outside of our control. And sometimes there are things which we can't do because the process is not quite working, or whatever that may be. And I kind of look at those hurdles and think sometimes you have to just try and find a creative way to get around them, without being able to have the perfect solution. I think sometimes that kind of can stop us a bit, of like, the perfect solution is that this thing will be fixed, but if it's totally out of your control and another team needs to fix it, but for them they've got 100 other things that they need to do before they can fix that thing, sometimes you have to go, okay, let's be pragmatic about it and try and just find a way around it, and it will get fixed at some point. But you have to kind of, particularly when you've got a big goal at the end, you have to just keep on going. And I think Kate and I had said, like, by the time you're jumping over all of those hurdles, you're going to be pretty fit by the end. So we were kind of saying, in some ways it's sad that we're not actually jumping over them, we're sitting in our chairs at a desk. Don't get quite the same result, but yeah, it's just kind of that sense of like, being a bit pragmatic about what you can actually fix and what you can't, and just trying to find creative solutions so that you can keep moving forwards.
Very good, very good. There's a whole conversation around what can I influence and all this, the circle of concern and circle of influence. What can I influence? What can I do something about? And what are those things that I just need to say? There, and the more I sweat over it, the more I'm going to mess up with myself to be able to address the things that I can address. And so, and as we think through this, for me personally, walking this journey of knowing myself and appreciating that I have my limitations, and there's just so much, there's just so far I can go. Beyond that, I need help. I need someone. And all of us, there's a moment you reach where you realize I need help. I need someone to come in and just sit here and help me navigate what this looks like. And even where it means walking around or jumping over the hurdles or filling the gaps, what does all that look like for you in your scenario? I don't know if there's anybody else who might have a comment before we can go on.
Yeah, I mean, just to add a little bit to what Larissa was saying, like, I think sometimes the difficulty for me is knowing how much you can push back on stuff that's coming, things that you're asked to do that are actually a little bit crazy. How much do you push back, and how much do you then just kind of say, oh, okay, well, I've pointed out what the problems are, but if you want me to carry on, fine. But then how many times can you do that before actually you're just doing a job that, like, is a little bit insane? I don't know. I think that's the tension, isn't it? Like, how much do you push back on a barrier
Yeah.
before it actually, just isn't really tenable? I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. And you guys are familiar, of course, you guys have done your voices and you know your voices. And I'm hearing you guys, and I could tell Larry is Saint, sorry, I see the name Saint L.
Yeah,
Is
it's Leanne. Leanne's.
Leanne, sorry, Leanne. I could tell Leanne is a connector because connectors connect. I don't know, I could be wrong here, but connectors sometimes is like, yeah, you wanna take it on and you wanna give all this, you wanna show up for people, you wanna do this because you wanna be pleasing to everybody. And that sometimes can be hard to know, okay, so how far should I go? When should I say no? Really? I'm not supposed to say no to anybody. And that sometimes you can just take on and take on and take on. The guardians in the room, if there's a guardian, probably saying no is no brainer to you. You probably say no even before someone finishes saying a statement. You've already said no. And you're like, what am I saying no to? Yeah. And pioneers and nurturers in the room, all this could play out differently for you when you're thinking of the hurdles, when you're thinking of the barriers, and when you're thinking of the gaps and even the inhibition and prohibition conversation. And it's good to understand your voice, how your voice then is playing out in all this conversation of really uh, uh, how to move on. And remember, not conforming, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind and figuring out what all this looks like. And so, even as we proceed with this, the hurdles, and most cases, sometimes the hurdles could be just in that corner of the inhibitions we're dealing with. And when I think about it, think about some of the things that have maybe come out as hurdles. Think about some of those things. They might just be maybe things you've told yourself sometimes. You told like I'm a nurturer. I'm a nurturer guardian. And sometimes I tell myself things in my head. And when you look at them, nobody has really told me, Gabriel, you can't do that. But I've told myself enough times that I've actually come to believe it, that I can't do it. And sometimes it's good to interrogate that and find out what are some of those things that appear to me that I can't do, and I've actually come to a point where I've accepted that I can't do it, yet maybe I need to interrogate it and ask myself the hard questions. Now, the barriers, those external prohibitions, who can I talk to? And it's important to always say, I can talk to person X. Now, right now we are trying to organize some NDA event for a group of young people that I lead. I work with an organization called Africa Youth Leadership Forum, which works with university students. And so there's an event we're trying to put together towards the end of this year. So there's a guest I wanted to invite, and I realized I can't reach him. I don't even know how to reach this guy. So it can easily look to me like it's an external restriction, But then I realized, I can talk to person X. So I call someone and they say, hey, Gabriel, is that what you, sure, fine. You let me know. I'll talk to the guy on your behalf and we'll make sure the guy comes for the event. So all of a sudden I realize it's something I can address because I have someone I can talk to. And so some of these barriers, external restrictions or enforced restrictions, who is it that you can talk to, or how can you walk around it to just make sure that you are not giving up or not just settling in and saying, oh, that's how things are always. I'm not going to change it. And of course, gaps also could just be the internal things you're dealing with. That's where probably most gaps might also be. Some of them could be out, but some of it could just be internally. And you need to ask yourself, some of the gaps that I can identify, where do they fall? Some of the hurdles that I can see, where do they fall? And the barriers, where do they fall in this inhibition and prohibition conversation? So, probably you've seen this, you've interacted with this. I say again, if you can name it, you can't manage it. And so call it. And this is about knowing yourself. Know yourself to lead yourself. And so call it. Is it a hurdle? Is it a barrier? Whatever it is that is appearing like an inhibition, is it a gap? Is it a hurdle? Whatever it is that is out there, is it a restriction? Maybe in an organization, you're trying to push something and you're facing a lot of resistance. What is it that you're facing? Is it a gap? Is it whatever it is? So call it. It is probably person X not approving the document very quickly. So call it. And then there's a part of that that you need to own and own that part and say, okay, maybe the reason why this is it is because it's some of the voices or some of the things I've told myself, or maybe it's a timing issue. I've not done a proper timing to this process. Maybe I need to revisit how I approach this, because maybe if I do this, I can be able to get better outcome. So own, what's your part in this? What is exactly your part in this not moving the way you want it to move? And then how are you going to respond? What's your response? Is it probably show up early next time, or maybe do it in a simpler way, make it simpler next time where the person you're approaching is going to understand what you're talking about, or maybe don't overthink it too much, just engage, or maybe think about it harder, think about it, spend some more time thinking through this process before you are quick to show up with it in front of anybody else. Whatever it is, you're going to need to respond. So that is a process of leading yourself. What is the right response? And when you know the right response, then go ahead and execute. Go ahead and act on it. Is it to talk to someone about it? I need to talk to person X about this situation. I need to think about it a little bit more. That way, it then helps you be able to manage the process. And of course, the core process could also be simplified this way. What happened when you're thinking of what happened exactly? Or what is it that I'm realizing about this situation? What is it? What is coming clear about this situation? And then why is this situation the way it is? What did we learn as an organization on this situation? Why did this situation happen the way it happened? And then what is the most important thing we can do in response as an organization? How do we respond as a team? How do we respond as a family? How do we respond to this situation? And then execute. When will we do it? How will we do it? And who will do something? Who will do what in this situation? And it's important because then this gives you tangible things you can do, the next steps you can do to address this situation. And of course, I remember, and I'll give this example and I'll open it up for questions and comments. I remember for a very long time, I had a relationship, and it's still a journey I'm walking, a relationship with my stepfather that has not been very healthy. And so, and the reason it happened, what made this happen is at some point, there was something he did that I didn't like. I didn't tell him. What happened is I withdrew from him and I talked to my mother more. So I talked to my mother. So he would learn of what is happening about me from my mother. And that just expanded the gap between me and him. And so The reason that gap expanded is because I was not approaching him to tell him things as man to man. I was going through my mother, and I think he didn't like that very much. And so the gap grew bigger and bigger. My response, when I realized this, I realized I need to talk to him. I need to face him and we talk. And so I did that. I did that. We are still on a journey. The relationship is not where it's supposed to be, but we are still on a journey. Occasionally we get to talk. Sometimes it's not as responsive as I'd like it to be, but at least we can talk. I can send him a message. He can communicate whatever it is he needs to communicate. And at some point, when I was going through this process, my wife held me accountable. And so she would ask me, hey, have you called your dad today? Have you reached out to your dad today? And so, whatever the situation, this could be a personal journey or it could be a group or work journey, but it's you to figure out. You call it, you own it. How do you respond? And exactly what does execution look like for you? I'm going to open it up for any questions or any comments or any thoughts, and then we will get into breakout again, and then we will see how we close on this. Questions that might be there, might be coming out from this.
No, if you're good, I will open the room.
Go ahead.
I've put 5 minutes on for this one.
Welcome, 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 guys. Yes. So a lot of feedback, a lot of comments, a lot of yeah. How was that? How was that?
It was encouraging. I think we were both like basically saying how much we've enjoyed learning this. And I guess the trick is really just to be more intentional, to use the training language, to be more intentional about the time to do the core thing, to make sure that you do actually make it a part of your regular work life and not just something you do on a Wednesday because you got training, sort of you are actually making it a part of your work life.
I like that. Be intentional. Catch yourself. And sometimes you got to catch yourself when you're just about to go back to your usual. Remember that do not conform to the pattern. When you're just about to conform, you catch yourself, not happening again, not happening again. I ought to do something different. Who can I call? Who can I talk to? What can I do? Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Anybody else?
Shall I select someone if I just go around my screen? Sarah?
Kindly help me, Claire.
Hello, Claire. So I'll be honest, I think we're a little bit confused what we were doing in this second section. So we discussed, my partner and I, this core thing and how they're sort of linked a little bit. So for me, I use the core as I can't have any extra staff at the moment. I've got 2 staff members on sick leave since September. There's only 4 of us in the team already. How am I going to manage? And it was just like we talked about, like letting go of things that really don't need to be done, or can wait, put on the back burner. So I've put stuff on the back burner work-wise. The building ain't going to fall down, don't panic. But there's things that I've had to forget for now because I can't manage it with me and my other member of staff. And I tried to sort of use the core process with that really, and then talk about how we're going to execute a new plan. And I've done that with my other team member to make things work. So that's what we did. Sorry if it was wrong.
It's fine. It was not wrong. At least I'm glad that you got that execution plan. What are you gonna do? And even putting things saying, okay, this we can't touch. This one can wait. This can wait for now. That's still calling it because then you know why you can't. You have to put it aside for now. And then what does it mean? And how are you going to operate if you put it aside for now? Yeah. Thank you.
Kate, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so in the sort of prep for this one, I just used an example of so yeah, I've been asked to write a reflection for our all staff meeting next week. So that one, no, realistically, I'm like, oh, I could quite easily have seen as using the language of like inhibiting. Like my gut reaction is that, oh no, like I'm not the most confident speaker. I have written down so I'll sort of really be reading it as opposed to like, not gonna do it sort of off the cuff or without sort of having that there. But also, yeah, could sort of quite easily have said, oh no, like I don't really wish to do that, or like I don't feel qualified to do that, or do I really have the right things to say for them? So yeah, use that as a sort of to be more aware of like actually the things that I was saying, like my sort of gut reaction and sort of what was in my mind was actually all inhibiting rather than prohibiting, like barriers or hurdles. Like in terms of that, there was actually I mean, I still sort of like ran past my manager to say, do I have time for this? Yes, I have time for it. And I sort of said, like, I will be nervous for it in all honesty. And I sort of said that to my manager as well, of like, I'm actually actively choosing this as an opportunity to sort of get a bit more confident through the experience of something you don't feel confident in. So yeah, just using the sort of language of that being a sort of inhibiting barriers, and then actually just sort of challenging myself to, okay, this is actually a good opportunity that's come my way to, oh, thanks, well, yeah, a good opportunity to sort of put myself a bit outside my comfort zone. And often we build confidence through experience as opposed to just having it off the cuff. So yeah, so that was helpful to sort of have that language and yeah, just sort of challenge that thinking a bit more as well.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Kat. And well, thank you for the encouragement. A natural needs that. A natural needs more of that. Yeah. And yeah, yeah. Thank you, well. Thank you, well.
Carl, would you?
Hello.
Oh,
We honestly struggled with trying to find an example where or a past example that we can think of at the minute anyway, where we could apply the core process. Yeah, a lot of the things we've been struggling as a department to kind of move forward with projects is out of our control. So I'm just trying to think of it like a way that it could be applied to deal with that better. I suppose it's a bit of a tough one. I think we just need a bit more time to reflect on that.
mm, mm. And as we close, I think just even acknowledging, call it, this is out of our control. So what is making it out of our control? Is it because we don't have X, Y, whatever that is? And so how do we respond to it now that it's out of our control? And
Yeah,
even that, processing it that way and saying, this is like, for example, I've had to do some things at my workplace that I realize this is out of my control. So how am I going to respond? I'm going to do redundancies, and it can come to that, whatever that is. And so it's always, yeah. So I think it's possible. Yeah. I
yeah.
don't know if I'm
I
making
think
sense.
I think I think it was Larissa that mentioned earlier. There's a lot of we are a process driven organization. There's a lot of red tape, but sometimes if we're waiting for policies to be signed off or processes to be signed off at kind of higher levels, that can quite literally take a year to happen. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's sort of experienced the length of time things take to get done, and often that doesn't match up timescales for projects. So it's kind of, I guess, just understanding that's the way it is. And when you're waiting on other departments as well, and capacity is sort of maxed out, then for me, it's just saying, okay, that's the way it is. I can't work around it. I can't work under it. I can't work over it or jump the hurdle or whatever, you know. So it just said, okay, well, you know, there you are. Even if it doesn't sit right, you know. But
Well, good. Thank you, guys. This was fun. Thank you for allowing me just to spend this 1 hour with you guys. I think for me, the greatest takeaway is do not conform to the patterns of this world. And when you reflect that on the lens of inhibition and prohibitions and all these barriers, hurdles, it just makes a lot more sense that we are called for higher purpose. And so thank you, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Claire, is this it? Thank
This
you.
is it.
Thank
this is
you.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I
Thank you
hope
very
to see you
much.
in person soon.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Thank you, Claire.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay.